Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how I did this makeup look today. Before starting a makeup, I always moisturize my client's skin. Today's moisturizer I'm using is Florence by Mills Up in the Clouds. I'm just using a blending brush to apply the moisturizer to his skin. Even if a client comes with moisturizer, I always put a little bit more on top to have your skin extra hydrated. For eyes, I'm applying Milani eyeshadow primer to her lids with a small concealer brush. This will help have your eyeshadow last all day. Now it's time for eyeshadow. I am using the MAC Art Library Nude Model Palette. I am taking the shade Shroom and I'm applying it all over her eyelids to set in the eyeshadow primer that I put on. I am then using the same palette in the shade Sandstone for the outer corner. This is a nice transition shade for the other colors we are going to use for today. I'm using a fluffy shadow brush and I am just taking the shadow and I'm winging it upwards, but also bringing it into her crease a little bit too, just to add some definition. Now to add some color, I'm using Elate Cool Nude Palette. I'm taking a defining brush and I'm going in with the shade Just on the outer corner and winging it upwards so that we can create our shape for our shadow. I take whatever product is left on the brush and in circular motions, I bring it into her lid a bit more to blur out any lines. Using the same palette, I take the shade Overcome and I blend in with Just, bringing it to the center of her lid. I'm taking the color and I'm bringing it up a bit more, up towards her eyebrow. We are creating that smoked wing shape. In the same palette again, I'm taking the shades Unravel and Infinity and I'm applying it to the center of her eye. We are adding that ombre effect. The brush that I'm using is a bit thicker, a little bit more dense, so it's great for adding shimmers on top, but I will bring it back a little bit so that I can blur out those lines again. For some highlight, I'm using the Warm Nude Elate palette in the shade Grace and I'm putting on the inner corner of her eye, just bringing it up towards her brow bone. For the eyeliner, I'm using the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Whatever Black. To make the smoke liner, I am using a thicker angled brush and I'm creating that wing shape and then I'm buffing out the edges so that it becomes blended with the shadow. This look, we want all the attention on the outer corner of her eye, so the more I bring it into the center, the less I buff it out. I take a small brush to blend the liner. To add more depth, I'm using Maybelline Lasting Drama Gel Liner. With a thin narrow brush and I make a small wing following the direction of the smoked liner. This is also going to help with bringing the liner into the center of her eye and into her inner corner as well. Once again, I'm taking a small blending brush and I'm buffing the top of that liner. With all that blending, I top off the lid with a bit more grace from the Elate Warm Nude palette. Now it's time to move on to eyebrows. She has naturally very full brows. The product I'm using today is Elate Brow Balm in the shade Smoke and I'm just filling in the gaps where needed to complete her shape. I wipe away any fallout and now it's time to move on to the foundation. I'm prepping her skin with the Elate Prep Priming Serum. The serum smells so good. Now we can do some color correction with the MAC Studio Fix Conceal and Correct palette. I'm using a pale pink shade to cover up blemishes and redness. For foundation, I'm using Elate Refresh Foundation in the shade RN2. This foundation is lightweight, easy to blend, and it makes your skin glow. I always do eyes first because I want to avoid product falling out into the foundation. When you end up having to remove the foundation concealer you've already done and then reapply, it's going to end up looking cakey. For her concealer, I'm using a Elate Cream Concealer in the shade CN2 and I'm applying it with a smaller blending brush. I'm putting it under her eyes and the highlighted points of her face. I always dab in the product because then I'm not swirling around and causing the foundation to move, and then it looks more blended. We can now set the foundation and concealer with our CMA setting powder. I am just using a small fluffy brush and I'm dabbing that in all over. Ilia bronzer in the shade Drawn In blends like butter. I'm taking a large fluffy brush and I'm applying the bronzer to her cheekbones, to her forehead, to her jawline, wherever the sun would hit. For blush, I actually couldn't find the name of this palette. I got this palette when I was in makeup school, but I will insert a picture I have and point to the shades I used. I would say a similar shade to this blush would be NARS Orgasm Blush. It is a nice light peachy pink. I apply this to her cheekbones and bring it in, making sure I'm not getting it too close to her eye. For highlighter, I'm using Revlon Skin Lights highlighter in the shade Daybreak Glimmer, and I'm using a small blending brush to apply it to her cheekbones. My camera died for the lip application, but I'm using Lawless Glam Guard setting spray. I'm using Elate Multi-Stick palette for lips today. I'm taking whatever's left over from eyeshadow earlier and I'm applying it to her lower lash line. We decided we didn't like the color of the lipstick for today. It was just too pink for this look, so here I am just wiping it away. And from that Elate Multi-Stick palette, I am mixing Cosmic Dancer and In the Mood for lips, and I'm applying Ardell Wispies. That's the finished look for today. I hope you enjoyed.